Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I guess it's been a while. Well, now I'm back, and this time with some Minecraft tutorial videos. Now, I know that sounds like a bit of a shift from my usual videos, but I'm just sharing another thing I love. My channel has always been a space for creative stuff, and this just fits right in. Of course, I'll still be doing other craft videos and stuff when I can, especially if you guys request something, so stay tuned for those too. But for now, I've got some cool Minecraft tutorials to share. I mean, by now, you've probably figured out that I'm a huge fan of Minecraft. I've been playing Minecraft for quite a while now, and I'm finally ready to share all the cool techniques and stuff that I picked up along the way. I do think some of them are really good, and I hope you'd think so too, and that they help level up your gameplay as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, a quick shout out to my subscribers. Thank you all for the support. I hope you enjoy these as well. With that said, let's get into today's video. In this one, we're going to be making redstone clocks. Of course, there are lots of them in Minecraft, but some require materials that aren't exactly early game friendly, like observers or comparators. And some designs can also be a bit less compact. So, I started thinking if I could create a cheaper, more compact, and efficient redstone clock. And I got it. After some redstone experimentation, I came up with 4 really cheap and compact designs. They only require 3 to 4 pieces of redstone, which is like super cheap and very compact that they fit into just a 2x2 space. Now, isn't that a game changer?
Donkey!
And just a heads up, redstone clocks made with redstone torches, which is what we are going to do today, can act a little weird sometimes. Some designs might be better than others, but I've made sure to demonstrate all the pros and cons of these, and also to include reliable and stabler ones throughout the video. So make sure to stick around until the end. Also, note that this works in the Bedrock edition, and I haven't tried it in Java. But if someone does happen to try it, why not mention it in the comments? And now, let's get started. Alright, I'm going to start off by placing a torch, just to quickly show you a redstone torch 101. That is, you cannot directly pass a signal to a torch and expect it to turn off. So what we should do is place the torch on a block. And now if we send a signal, it does turn off. Now if we place the redstone on the block, we could also send a signal to the torch through it. And now that we know that this redstone passes a signal to the torch, let's try passing its own signal into itself. So let's just do that by placing a redstone next to the torch and connecting it to that. And we see that the torch just flickered and then turned off. So what happened here was that the torch received its own signal, causing it to turn off and on repeatedly, since it is connected to itself, until it burned out, as it received its own signals rapidly. And if we do that again, we see it flickers again and burns out. Now we can do this same thing more efficiently by placing a block over the torch like this, and the same thing happens. So what happens now is that the torch sends its signal through the block into the redstone, which goes back to the torch, and it loops until the torch burns out. Now, this little burnout mechanism is pretty useful and one of my favorites, and I'll be using it more in the future as well. Anyway, one thing to note about this is that if we place a block adjacent to the torch, it updates the mechanism and the torch flickers and burns out again. So, in this case, we try not to introduce any unintended behavior in our clocks due to this, as I shall show you in some cases. And now that we know the torch flickers before burning out, we can use that to our advantage. So the main idea for our clock is to use these flickering signals and to pass those through another torch to kind of alternate the signals back to the same torch, so that the torch does not burn out, and those signals are carried back and forth in a loop. Don't worry if you didn't get all that, because we are about to see it. So first we place a torch right here. Now if you break the redstone, you can see that torch turns off this one. So, if I were to send one torch's signal to the other, it will alternate between them. And how we do that is, we place a block here, and then connect the torches using redstone. And as you can see, the torches are going on and off, and we have a constant output, so our clock is working. And just like that, we have got ourselves a compact little 2x2 clock. 2x2x2 to be exact, and with just 2 redstone and 2 redstone torches. And now, we're going to see if we can turn it off, since one disadvantage of some clocks are that you can't turn them off once they start off. So I'm just going to place a lever right here. And as you can see, we can indeed turn it on and off as we please, and it will still work. Now let's just quickly go over it again. Block, block, torch, block, torch, and place redstone quickly. 1, 2, and it works. Now let's place a lever and turn that off. And now, another thing to note is that currently, I am facing this direction, but if I were to create the same clock facing that direction, you can see it does not work now, which is one weird thing about this clock. But that does not mean it won't work in that direction. You just have to place the redstone in the reverse order for some reason. And then it works. So if your clock happens to not work, maybe try this reverse order. That is why I pointed it out. Or you could just change the direction as well. Now let's just get back to our clock and turn it back on. And let's go ahead and see the clock in action. So I'm just going to take a piston and place it right there. And what you see is that the piston is powered and the clock just stops. So this is the other weird behavior of it. That is, placing any block near it kind of breaks it. This may also sometimes happen when you quit and come back. So when that happens, what you should do is to reset the clock. And how you do that is by breaking the redstone and placing them back again. Although that sounds a bit annoying, once it is set up it works without a problem. So ideally, you should place the redstone after setting up the system and the lever after that. And when you reset it, you can see that the piston works, and at full speed too. And now as you can see, the biggest advantage of this clock design that I like is that it is ultra compact, in that it allows even the piston to be in the 2x2 space. So this whole thing is still in the 2x2x2 space, and that's probably as compact as it gets. And let's just turn that off. Next, I'm just going to create another clock real quick right here. And let's try it with a dispenser this time. So before placing the redstone, we better place the dispenser first. And now we place the redstone. And we can see it works as well. Now let's place a lever. And we can turn that on and off. Let's just turn it off and put in some arrows. And now if we turn that on, it just shoots them all off right away until it empties it. And just like that, we've got an ultra-compact powered cannon. I'm also just going to throw some eggs in there, so that we get an egg cannon. And finally, let's try some fire charges. Now, isn't that a cool cannon? Wait, did it just? Oh well. Anyone want some lava chicken? Anyway, that's a 2x2x2 powered cannon for ya. And now let's turn that off too. Next, let's make the clock again, and this time, let's try a crafter. Place the crafter over there. And then place the redstone. And we can see, it also works. Now we place a lever. And now if we put something, like logs, into it, it just crafts them away. And pretty fast too. And there we have our ultra-compact auto crafter. So, since this clock allows a block that we want to operate be placed in this space, it allows us to make some pretty compact contraptions. Now let's try adding a hopper to the crafter. Of course, placing it now breaks the clock. So let's break the redstone, place the hopper, and then place back the redstone. And now we see that the crafter works with a hopper as well. Next, let's make the clock again. And this time we're going to see from which sides we can get a signal. So let's place a piston and place pistons on the back as well. And let's try placing the redstone. That didn't work somehow. Let's try reverse. And yeah, we see it works. Now we turn that off. And let's also try a piston here. Turn that on, and it still works. Let's also try the other side. And it somehow burned out again. So let's reset it real quick. And it works again. So we see that we can get signals from almost all sides. We could also try placing one here. But if we do that, it burns out again. And even if we reset it, it seems to work fine. But it just breaks again, probably due to the update thing I mentioned earlier. So it is better not to place any near the torch. Reset it again, and it still works. And let's turn that off now. Next up, we're going to check if we can extend redstone signals from the clock. So let's make the clock again. And now we are going to extend redstone like this. And at some point, the clock burns out as expected. So break these and place them last. And now we extend it from wherever we want. And then place some pistons at the end of those. And once our setup is done, we place the redstone back. And we see that it works. And now if we wanted to extend it further, we can just turn it off, break it and extend it, and place it again. And then turn it back on, and it still works. And finally, let's see if we can use repeaters with the clock. And then let's place the repeaters. And now if we place the redstone, it works. Now let's just place a lever and turn that off. And then let's also place pistons at the ends of the repeaters. And now if we turn that on again, all the pistons work as well. And more importantly, let's try setting the repeaters at different ticks and see if we can change the speeds of the pistons and hence the clock itself. We've set them all at different ticks. And now if we turn it back on, you can see that all the pistons are indeed working at different speeds. So, these are some of the demo tests I wanted to show, so you get the idea of using the clock. The main advantage of this clock is compactness, and disadvantage would be the requirement to reset it, and maybe some weird behavior. It's not the most stable one, but it is a decent clock, especially for cases requiring compactness. And yeah, that is our first clock design. Now, our next clock is also based on the first one. So, let's place a block, place a torch, and another block, and then a torch on that. And instead of placing a block in redstone like the first one, we shall use the same idea of using a block over the torch, just like we did for the first torch. So we're going to place a block over that torch, so that a similar looping is also created there. And now if we place the redstone, like this, we get another working clock. Now, you might observe it makes burnout sounds sometimes, and while this does make it a bit noisy, the clock works just fine. Maybe it might stabilize after a while like this as well. And again, this clock also used 2 redstone and 2 redstone torches, and is also occupying a 2x2 space, but this time it is 2x2x3. So basically, it's another version of the first clock, redstone clock 1.1, if you will. And we can also place a lever to turn it on or off as we want. And now let's see it in action. Let's make the clock again. Block, torch, block, torch, block, and then redstone, 1, 2. And then we place a piston, right here. And we can see that the previous rule also applies to this one as well. So we have to reset it now by breaking and placing the redstone. And once we do that, we see that it works. Again, at full speed. Now the advantage of this clock is that it allows us to place 2 pistons instead of 1 within the 2x2 space itself. So we get to have 2 working pistons or whatever we want to operate within the 2x2 space. And we can see that by placing a piston next to it. And as you can see, they work. And synchronously too. And as you also saw, this clock is a bit more stabler than 1.0 since it did not break when we placed the second piston. So let's place a lever and turn that off too. And now, let's make the clock again. And one other thing about this one is that you could actually extend it upwards using the same principle, kind of like a spiral, and it would still work. And obviously you could place torches on that block, and it would get the signals as well. And now let's just quickly go over the remaining tests for the clock. So let's place our dispenser there. And we see that it works right away, and it also didn't break the clock. Of course, we could also place 2 dispensers here if we wanted to, and it would still work, but let's just move on to the next one. So let's make the clock again. And let me just turn that off. And let's place our crafter there. And it works pretty well too. And next, let's try placing pistons on all the sides. So let's just place one here, one over there, and another one over there. And although the clocks seem to be stable with dispensers and crafters, I guess it still breaks when it comes to pistons, probably due to their different behavior with redstone. And should I place one there? Yeah, of course that wouldn't work. I guess that broke the clock too. Oh, it didn't. You got me. Alright, now, we know we probably shouldn't place any near the torch, but let's see what happens if we do it anyway. So if we place one right there, it doesn't just break, we get something more interesting. It just makes the whole clock change its pattern or something, which is a weird behavior, I guess. But, I don't know, even that could be useful somewhere, probably. Let's just say it turns it into a different clock. Call it a feature, not a bug. And let's leave it at that, and reset the clock. And now that it still works, let's turn that off as well. Moving on, let's try extending signals next. So, make the clock. And let's try extending redstone directly. And yeah, we can extend it from all 3 sides, and this also did not break the clock. So now let's go ahead and place pistons at the ends. And if we reset it, they work. And let's place a lever. And for some reason that broke the clock. So let's just reset it again. And we are good to go. And finally, let's try repeaters. So, clock again. And let's place the repeaters. And of course they work. Now let's try placing pistons at their ends. And they work as well, although not at full speed for some reason, and without breaking the clock this time. So I guess repeaters are stabler here than redstone dust. And also if we reset it, they synchronize too. Now let's try changing their ticks. and if we turn it back on. They do indeed work at different speeds too. And also the fastest one is that with one tick, just so you know. And another thing is that with repeaters you could also get signals from near the torch as well, without any weird behavior. So with that, we can get signals from 3 more sides. I guess I forgot to do this with the first one, but it does work there as well, just so you know. And by now we have placed many pistons and the clock still did not break, so we can see that indeed this is stabler than the first clock. And to add to that, the ones with dispensers or crafters, and maybe other non-piston ones, also still work if we quit and come back. So yeah, the advantages of this one include improved stability and also that it allows 2 pistons, or whatever, to go in the 2x2 space, so compactness. And disadvantages would be that it still has some weird behavior and sometimes breaks with pistons and maybe a little noise. So this is indeed another decent clock. And that is our second redstone clock. So, by now you must be sick of all the clock breaking and resetting and stuff. So let's look at another one that is much more stabler and reliable. So again, we make the torch burnout mechanism here. And now what I'm going to do is instead of placing the torch here on the top block, I'm going to place the torch right there on the lower block, so that this torch could send a signal through the redstone to that torch, which will send it back, and it goes on in a sort of L shape. So, for this torch to be able to send signals, we could place redstone, but of course by now we know the better way is to place a block on top of it. And obviously, it's not working now, because the other torch was already burned out, and so the new torch's signal went to it, and since it was off, it just turned on and that's it. So instead, we should break that redstone, so that the torch is back on, and then place the other torch in the block. And then if we place the redstone there, we have a working clock. This clock is also in the 2x2x2 space, and the best part is that it managed to be even cheaper, requiring only 2 torches and a single redstone. So this right here is our cheapest redstone clock, while still being really compact. And also it is pretty simple and easier to make as well. And if you still haven't got how it works, this might help you understand better. We place a block and place torches on opposite ends and blocks above those. Then if I put a redstone there, you can see that torch sends a signal through there, and the other one sends it back over, and it keeps on doing that repeatedly. So this is the same thing, but in an L shape and also in 2x2 space. Now let's see if we can turn it off. And yes, we can turn it off and on. So now let's see it in action. So block, torch, torch, then block, block, and redstone. And that's our clock. Now, this one is stabler and cheaper than the others, which kind of puts them in the clock of shame. But one thing this can't do that those can, is that it cannot contain a piston or dispenser or whatever within the 2x2 space. So if we place one there, it's just powered on. And the reason is that, in that space, it receives signals from both torches at the same time, so it just gets a continuous on signal. But if you were to place it here, it works without a problem. Also there too. So you could place at all sides of the torches. except that one, of course. And also not these sides, since that redstone is always powered. So you get signals from the sides of torches. Now let's turn it off. Now let's try the other tests. So we make the clock. Then let's place our dispensers. And of course they work well, and at full speed. Let's turn that off now. Next we can try the crafter. And it works just as well and quick too. And let's turn that off too. And our next test is to see if we could extend the signal. So let's check if that's possible. And yeah, we can extend signals from the torches. Of course, extending from the redstone itself is no good. Also, you can see the corner is powered too. And now let's try placing pistons at their ends. And as we can see, they work and did not break the clock at all. In fact, it hasn't broken so far. So that's some improvement, isn't it? It makes it more reliable. And finally, our next test is repeaters. So let's see if it can be used with repeaters. And obviously, yes, it can. Oh, and one thing you can do with repeater is that you can use it to get a signal even from the corner. And why that works is because repeaters only take signal from one end, so the other torch's signal doesn't go through. And let's try some more repeaters and pistons. Obviously, they all work. Now let's try changing ticks. And they do indeed work at different speeds. And one thing I've noticed with this one is that the speeds for this is a bit weird, because we can get kind of slower with these. Like, if we try this at 3 ticks, it looks extra slow. So I guess we could get fast and slow clocks with this one. Now we're done with all the tests, but there's more to this one that I'd like to show. So if you were to build it 1 block above, we know we could get the signal from the sides of the torch, but we could also get it from below. And I realize we didn't check this for the others, but given their not very stable nature, let's just not. And that's 2 more pistons. And that's it, right? But if we were to place a torch under there, we can get 2 more. So 4 pistons from all sides. Just thought that was kind of cool. Also, you can even extend that signal as well. And this probably only works using pistons, since piston is not considered a full block or something. And let me just quickly show you that this wouldn't work with a solid block. And you see, that's not working. And the next thing is that we can kind of extend this clock to all four sides, like an upgrade. To do that, we can just place two more torches on the lower block and place blocks over those. Of course, this increases its size to 3 by 3. And we could get signals from all four sides. One weird thing about this one, though, is that if we connect pistons to all four sides, one does not work for some reason. But another thing about this is that you could also use the corners. So the reason for this is that now the signal is not just circulating between two torches, but four. So you can use the corners as well. And let's turn that off. Of course, we could also make a 3-torch version as well. Again, we can place on all sides of the torches. And finally, let me just show using repeaters with a 4-torch version. So let's quickly make that. And let's place repeaters on all sides. And we could place more if we use the corners as well. And just like that, we get 3 times 4. That's 12 working repeaters. And if we place pistons at their ends, "11 out of 12 pistons work. One of them just refuses to work for some reason, but 11 is pretty good." Anyway, that's it for our third clock, Clock 2.0. The obvious advantage of this is that it is the cheapest one. Then there's its stability. It doesn't break like the other ones, and also works when we quit and come back. Also, it's pretty simple too, and no noise either. Plus, we can also upgrade it with more torches. And as for disadvantages, it ain't got that compactness as the other clocks, although that's not much of a disadvantage, especially since it's compensated in reliability and some weird behaviors. So overall, a good design indeed. And now for our final design. This one comes with a twist, like literally. So let's set up our torch burnout mechanism again. And now we're going to be building on this same idea again, but this time we are flipping it. So what we're going to do is, we are going to make this same mechanism right next to it, but inverted. And just like that, we get another working clock. And now if you look at it, it's the same setup, but mirrored, like yin and yang. And how this works is pretty satisfying and kind of self-explanatory. So we just connected 2 torch burnout loops right next to each other. And while we make the second one, a flickering is initiated by that one, and it is looped and also passed to the other, which is the same but opposite. So it also loops and passes it back, so neither torch would burn out, and it goes on and on endlessly. So it is kind of like positive and negative terminals or something. So when we make it, an initial charge is generated, and it just alternates back and forth endlessly between those two terminals. And you know what that sounds like? It sounds like alternating current. So I guess we just created an AC clock in Minecraft. Although technically all of them are alternating to some degree, this one kind of feels like the Minecraft version of an AC generator, so I like to call it the AC clock. Anyways, that's how this clock works, and as you can see, it is still in the 2x2x2 space, and all you need is 2 torches and 2 redstone, so still cheap and compact. And this one has also got to be my favorite, other than the third one maybe. This one's really good. And even though it looks like you can't put a piston or anything in the 2x2 space, we actually can do it. We can place them on the 2 blocks above. And it's also pretty much more stabler and reliable as well. It also has lesser weird behaviors. I mean, although it's not 100% weird proof. The only weird behavior I've seen is that sometimes it makes some burnout noises, and it doesn't break at all, like maybe very rarely, but if ever that does happen, it can easily be reset by just breaking and replacing 1 redstone dust, and you're back in business. And it also has more advantages like that we can get signals from many sides, which we shall see. Anyway, let's place a lever. And of course we can turn it on and off. And time to see it in action. So let's build our clock again. So, block, block, torch, torch, and then block, block, and finally, redstone and redstone. And we can place that in any order, and it doesn't even have to be quick, and our clock still works. And even if we break that block and place it back, still works. And also, even if we place a block or 2 directly near the torch, it still doesn't break either. Now let's just place a lever there. And now let's try placing a piston right there. And it starts working right away. One thing we observe is that it is not at full speed for some reason. You could also place one over there, and it works as well. And a little weird thing I've noticed is that if you place a lever there, it acts differently. And if you break that one, now it somehow is at full speed. And if the lever were up there, and then you wanted to speed it up, you could do so using a repeater at 1 tick. And yet another thing is that if the lever was down there again, and the piston is at full speed now, but if you place another piston next to it, it slows back down. Just wanted to show you these tiny weird behaviors, which you may even be able to take advantage of in some cases. Also note that this is only the case with pistons. And now we'll try the dispenser. So let's build the clock again. But this time I'm going to make it differently, just to show you that it still works either way. And now, if you notice, this is like the opposite configuration of that. So yeah, it works both ways. And let's place our dispenser over there. Also a lever there. And now, turn it off, put a couple of eggs in there, and shoot. And it works beautifully, and also at full speed. Maybe let's also try some fire charges. Now that's a cool cannon again. And we could also place one there if we wanted, and of course it works too. Now let's try placing a hopper over the dispenser. And put some arrows into that. And yeah, it works with a hopper as well. Now we can place a lever down there and turn it off. Next, let's also try the crafter. So, let's set up our clock again. Place our crafter there, and a lever there. And of course, it also works pretty well and at full speed. And now let's turn that off too. Next, let's see from which all sides we can get signals from. So this time I'm going to make the clock a layer above to show you that you can also get the signals from below. And first, let me just show you what happens if you power a redstone lamp with it. So as you can see, the lamp turns on and doesn't blink since the signals are too fast. So now let's use redstone lamps to see which all sides give off signals. So 4 from below, and all of the sides on this layer as well. Which is what we used so far. And if that weren't enough, we could also get if from all sides of the layer above as well. And of course from above the 2 blocks too. So as you can see, this clock gives off redstone signals from literally almost all of its sides. That's like 22 lamps powered by a single clock. Also, since redstone lamps are solid blocks, they carry these signals, so you could also get some like that. So of course there's no signal there, but there is surrounding it. And also near these blocks. And the other side too. So that's all the possible places you could get redstone signals from this clock. Now, isn't that great? That itself gives the clock a lot of points if you ask me. And if we turn that off, half of the lamps turn off while the other half remain on, again showing the positive-negative nature of it. And just for the fun of it, and also to prove a point, let's try the same, but with pistons this time. So let's make the clock. And let's place 4 pistons at the bottom. Of course they all work, so let's place the remaining ones. And voila, we got a working piston sphere, cube, or whatever, with a single clock at their core. And the clock never broke either. Now, doesn't that look cool? Now let's place a lever over there and turn this whole thing off. And next let's try extending redstone from it. So once again, we make the clock. And now, you could just directly extend redstone from it like this. You could even extend it from the redstone on the clock without breaking it, and even connect them together. So yeah, basically you could just extend redstone from any side and any way you want, and it would work without breaking the clock. And if you put a piston at the ends of any of those redstone, they work as well. And my favorite way to demonstrate this point is using what I like to call the power grid. So let me just quickly make another clock. Whoops. And now, I'm just going to extend redstone from all sides and make you guessed it, a grid. And now as you can see, the output signals are flowing through the entire grid. And let's try placing a dispenser. That doesn't work since the dispenser doesn't get connected to the redstone. So let's break that and try a piston instead. And that works since it does get connected. So you place it anywhere near the grid and it will work. You could also turn the whole thing off, of course. And turn it back on. And let's try a lamp. That doesn't get connected either. What about a crafter? Nope. Like this? Nope again. So what if we wanted to work them anyway? For that, we could use target blocks. So if you didn't know, target blocks also get connected to redstone like this. So now if we placed our dispenser next to that target block, then it works. And so does a crafter. And if we put in some arrows, obviously it shoots. Okay, so more target blocks. And of course a piston works with that. And so does the lamp. Just to prove that each and every one of it works, I'm going to place pistons at all the ends. And would you look at that? You could also synchronize them by turning it off and back on. Now you gotta admit, this is some serious good stuff, right? Like, isn't this the best clock, or what? I mean, this thing could probably power a city. And that just demonstrates how redstone extendable this clock is. And that, folks, is how you make a 2x2x2 redstone AC generator with a bunch of scrap. Heck, even the chicken approves. And finally, let's do our repeaters test. So let's put repeaters on all sides. And obviously, all the 8 repeaters work. And let's put 2 pistons there. And let's try changing their speeds. And obviously that works too. They work at different speeds. And let's just place the remaining ones. And every one of them works. And you can observe that the pairs are working oppositely, again showing the alternating nature of the clock. And also we know that we can get signals from the top level too. So let's try placing repeaters on that level as well. So yeah, we could do that too. And maybe I'll place 2 torches on the blocks as well. Now let's just place a lever there and turn that off as well. So now we're done with all the tests, and I thought the clock couldn't get any better now. But turns out, it actually can. So remember when I told you that we could place a piston or a dispenser or whatever in the 2x2 space using the 2 blocks above? So I figured out how to make that even more compact. So it occurred to me that these blocks that we used to make the clock could be any block as long as it is a solid block. And as it turns out, dispensers and crafters are solid blocks. So if I were to break this block right there, and if I place a dispenser just like that, we still have a solid block there, and the whole clock works with it while also powering the dispenser like that. And if I put some arrows in it, shoots them off. Similarly, a crafter would work too. Let's try placing the crafter over there. And you can see that it works too. So, yeah, as long as those blocks are solid, the clocks still work and they also power them. So that's another cool thing about it. In the case of pistons, however, pistons aren't exactly solid blocks, and they also don't interact with redstone like solid blocks do. So if I were to break this block and place a piston over there, it just wouldn't work. But I'm thinking maybe it would work over there, so let's try that. And if I place it there, it does work. However, you can expect some really weird behavior when a piston is introduced into the equation like that. For example, if I place a lever there, it just breaks like that. So, placing pistons like that is generally not recommended. But placing it there sped it up though. Another weird thing I've come across is that if I place 2 pistons like this and put a torch over there and one over there, that works like a clock. You could consider it a 2x2x1 clock. But it's not a really good clock since you can only turn it off, but not back on. And let's just conclude this point by making a clock with 4 different blocks. And they all work. But as you can see, piston causes problems again. So let's replace it with a crafter now. So that's another advantage of this clock. And I guess this is also applicable to the other clocks. But not the third one, though. So if I were to make the third clock and replace a block with a dispenser, You can see it doesn't work. And the reason is that this redstone is powered on all the time, and hence it powers all the 3 blocks as well. So they stay powered on and doesn't work. The clock still works normally though. So I guess a weakness of this clock is compactness. And let me just quickly show you that it does work for the other clocks. And that's all about that one. The biggest advantage of this is obviously how we get output from all sides of it. Then there's the power grid thing. Also, it's very stable, and also works if you quit and come back, so pretty reliable, mostly not noisy either. Can get really compact, since we can even work up to 4 dispensers or crafters or whatever within a 2x2x2 space, is also simple to make, and probably the best clock of these. And as for disadvantages, there ain't many. I mean, it might make some burnout noise sometime. And, I don't know, the pros outweigh the cons anyway. So there you have it. Of course, you might be able to come up with a ton of uses with all of these. Make sure to comment the ones you do come up with. It was fun figuring out and making these clocks. And that's it, guys. That's all my designs of redstone clocks that are pretty cheap, pretty compact, and pretty effective. And I am glad I could share my redstone knowledge with you guys. I personally think these are game-changer designs, because you could develop cool machines and stuff early on, like during early game itself, with just a few redstone. So that, I think, is pretty cool. And I would love to hear what you think about all of this, so put those thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear them. And also leave a like and share this with your friends as well. And thank you guys for watching. Oh, and guess what else I used my redstone clock to power up? This. And what is that exactly? Well, let's have a look. That's right, guys. You know what to do. And don't forget to put your thoughts in the comments. And also share this with your friends if you liked it. I have more coming, so stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video.